I'm Dr. Rabbi Larry Hirsch, wanting to wish all of you a Shana Tova, a healthy, happy New Year of 5782, and stay tuned for Taped with Rabbi Doug.
We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight.
But Daddy, I want to watch Monday Night Football.
Forget about Monday Night Football. There's no other thing we're going to watch on Monday but Rabbi Doug.
Yeah, Rabbi Doug on TV tonight. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. Oh, everybody talk about Doug.
Hello and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. Glad you could be with us today. I am so honored once again to welcome back from the land of Israel, Eretz Yisrael, Dr. Rabbi Larry Hirsch. Welcome back to the show. When you're in town, I'm so honored to have you on the show because you're able to update us on so many things. We are taping now at the end of the summer, the beginning of the fall. It is the high holy day season. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur just days away. And we're going to talk about those holidays, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, and Simchat Torah, just a couple of weeks away from the time of our taping. And Larry, you're our medical expert, you're our Israel expert, and I don't know how we would find out things if it weren't for you when you're in town. And I'm so glad that you do come to town to visit your mother, to visit your sister's family, and to do some medical practice while you're here, which is always a good thing. So let's start out with what's going on in Israel now with the COVID situation. Here in America, we are just starting the third shots, the boosters for people who've been vaccinated. In Israel, that's been going on for weeks already. Has it had an impact in Israel? Because, since Israel were the first to get the vaccines down and to bring COVID way, way, way down, obviously the Delta variant came in and just smashed the country once again. Has the third vaccine made a difference yet, or is it going to make a difference? Tell me what's going on.
Okay, well, the vaccine certainly made a difference. 2 shots made a difference. 3 shots made. I don't know if I don't know how to evaluate how 3 shots did over 2 shots. I believe right around mid-June, maybe even the beginning of June, we started the third shots, and then we got a government change, and they actually, like in America, COVID was politicized there quite well, and but the interesting facts are that despite all the what I call panic, 5 weeks ago I was sitting in Hadassah, and
the hospital,
and I asked what was going on COVID-wise in Shaarei Tzedek. They had 1 patient, and Hadassah had 1 patient. Week later,
meaning that the people...
1 patient admitted.
No, I'm saying meaning that the people who've had the vaccines had not gotten very sick. They may have gotten a breakthrough COVID, but they didn't get very sick.
Yes, the overall numbers were like this. By the next week we had 4. By the third week, I remember on the Sunday morning we had 10. And by the evening we had 13, and the residents were all, nervous. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Now, to put that in perspective, okay, by the next week I came here, and we had all of 28 about a week ago. I was here a week ago already. We're up to 28. Now we're up to 38. Now, to put that in perspective, from the last week of January through March 15th, Hadassah at all times had between 240 and 250 COVID patients in the hospital. Right now, with this, what's called an upsurge, I really think it's sort of blown out of proportion. We have...
Now, these people aren't in ICU, most of them, correct?
If I remember right, 28 non-ICU right now, 10 ICU, maybe No, what's happened is, whether it's a combination or only due to the third shot, this upsurge has been nothing. From July 1st to July 31st, I believe we had something. At one point, we were single-digit deaths, and between mid-July and mid-August, about 10 days ago, we were up to 21 deaths for the month. Wait, for the month. As opposed to, starting January 24th, we were averaging 54 deaths a day.
I understand. But
So
most of these
this is
people,
nothing.
most of these deaths, from what I'm reading in the Israel news, were non-vaccinated people, or people
Yeah,
who never
but-
had gotten the vaccination to begin with.
So, but still, you're talking about, when they're talking 21 deaths over a month versus 54 deaths a day for 7 weeks, with the hospitals, all the hospitals bursting. It seems so much so, the hospitals in Yerushalayim, which were handling this, which were only Hadassah and Karam and Shaarei Tzedek, said we're not taking any more, and everybody was being shunted to Tel Aviv. So, although this is an uptick, and people are getting the idea that Israel's getting swamped, it's not true, and it's been politicized to the point. June 13th, we got a new government. June 12th already, Netanyahu was announcing, July 1st, we're opening the country up to tourism, everything's looking good. June 13th, the new government canceled that. And eventually, by around the first week of August, in their brilliance, made the worst move, which was anybody coming into the country, including Israelis, which only Israelis could really get in, or first degree, had to quarantine for a week, the 7 days quarantine, and that, that really played against the whole vaccine thing, because what happened was, we've got our anti-vaxxers like you've got, and we've got some winners. I got one email. My friend is supposed to be coming, like all my classmates' 50th Stern anniversary get-together for just like 8 of us in Yerushalayim. But my friend from Tzfat sent me this email, and I want you to respond to it. The email was, me and my husband are past 65, and therefore we're at higher risk for COVID, but we're not vaccinated like most people that I know in Tzfat, and which I'm not sure that's true, but I'll get to that in a second. And she says, well, I'm thinking of coming, but the other 7, they're vaccinated, and they're radiating mRNA, and they'll be a danger to me. What do you think? So the only thing I could tell her was, if that's what you think, which is totally incorrect, if that's what you think, you can't go. But you shouldn't go. But to tell you the truth, that's totally brainless. I mean, in Yerushalayim, they were giving out bikes to random 12-year-olds to get 12-year-olds to show up, and if you were the lucky 10th, every 10th got a bicycle. Here, I understand they were giving out beer. In Tzfat, maybe they should have been giving out brains.
There's a lottery too. There's a money lottery too.
But the real truth is, I 2 weeks ago in 2 days, the whole family, 20-something of us, were in Tzfat, and we davened at Reb Shmuel Eliyahu, the chief rabbi of Tzfat, his shul, and he was wearing a mask. The whole shul was wearing a mask. So, but what it's done is, what they've by putting a prohibition on tourists, they've managed, for me, the anti-vaxxer, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I can now say it's the tourist's fault. It's the travelers' fault. The travelers who are allowed to come, it's their fault that there's Delta here. Now, I want to say a couple of things about that. Number one, Delta already was being reported a year ago, June. One amazing report was from the British medical literature. One guy survived 6 months, eventually died, a 70-plus-year-old guy. He first showed the regular COVID, the first alpha, then he showed beta, the South Africa, then he showed, I believe, the English, and finally he showed what was called then the India, which was renamed Delta. So it seems like the natural progression of the virus is to mutate along those lines, what we call alpha, beta, gimel, delta. Israel reported a few scattered cases already a year ago. And the crazy thing, in Turkey there was a Muslim holiday, but there's a Muslim holiday everywhere, Ain whatever, in July. A lot of people went to Turkey and came back, and people were saying, oh, those are the ones who brought back the Delta. Total lie. Going back the Delta to Israel. 141 positives from July 1st to July 31st showed up at the airport. During that month, single digits death from all COVID in Israel. And what was announced by the Ministry of Health, people getting off the airplane, 0.2% positive. At the same time, by August, first week of August, 3.8% of the Israelis, and now 5% of the Israelis are positive, and they're showing Delta. So I turned to our infectious disease lady in the ICU in Encarna. I said, using the logic of the Ministry of Health, we should be exporting these 3.8% Israelis and bringing in all the 0.2 tourists because we'll be way ahead. And the point was, you still cannot get on an airplane to Israel unless you're negative. So you're pre-screened. 99.8% of those people were negative. Sure. They would have to be in the perfect window of the incubation period that the next 3-4 days they're going to start showing positive from their nose. So that's what's been going on in Israel. I'm attributing this to a brand new minister of health, a journalist, inexperienced, to a large extent he doesn't know. And the best part of the story, and I'll finish with this, Prime Minister Bennet met with Biden over Shabbos. I think he's on his way back, or maybe back already.
He was here for Shabbos. He had to stay in Washington for Shabbos. His Shabbat was in Washington, D.C. They had pictures of him.
Okay, so I told my wife, you watch. He's not going to come back to Israel and do 7 days quarantine. And that's exactly what happened. He didn't want to be, and there's no reason for it. So they announced anybody who had the third shot, no 7-day quarantine. So he's out of it. I'm actually out of it. And that's what's going on in Israel.
So let's spend a couple of minutes talking about the new government. Prime Minister Bennet, I've heard him speak in person before. I've met him at APAC. He is a dynamic guy. He is the first outwardly orthodox Shomer Shabbat, Shomer Mitzvot Prime Minister of Israel. We've had many, I shouldn't say many, we've had a few traditional people as prime ministers, but he's really someone who strictly keeps kosher, strictly keeps Shabbat and the holidays. The government is almost shut down except for emergencies over Shabbat now because of his observance. What is it like to have a Shomer Shabbat prime minister and living in Israel when you're Shomer Shabbat yourself and observant yourself?
Okay, I still remember watching Camp David, 1978. Prime Minister Begin pulled out this big black kippah.
I remember that
put
too.
it on his head, and that's nice. Those are moments where you can feel proud of the state of Israel and our politicians, which most of the time you can't, unfortunately. So, Bennett being religious, it's actually a wonderful feeling. When he started his political career running for Knesset, both he and Shaked, Ayelet Shaked, who's been a minister under him for all this time, but now interior, but she's had law. They actually, at the very beginning, spent hours and hours, many times, over many days, talking with Reb Chaim Druckmann, one of the leading Mafdal Mizrahi, Kippah Srugan, Nit Kippah rabbis, the leading one now, getting all kinds of background, because he had also been a member of Knesset, a Chaver Knesset. So it's nice having religious. He brings he brings a different spirit certainly than our foreign minister Lapid, who in 2005 for the disengagement said we're kicking 9,000 Jews out of their homes, impoverishing them. And he said, he didn't say that part, but that's what he was doing in order to teach those Nitkipot that they don't run the country. Now he's got to shut up because his prime minister boss has got to keep on his head. It's nice. He's a little hamstrung with obviously with Arabs, the fulcrum of his coalition. Without them, there's no coalition. So he's, on the one hand, the Bedouin are grabbing lands all over the Negev, the south of Israel. I mean, you're talking about many, many square miles of illegal building. Hiran has been, over the years, it was slated to be a Jewish town. As soon as they announced it, I think about 10 years ago, the Bedouin moved in and squatted on it. And in 2017, Netanyahu sent soldiers and police to throw them out. Some Arab teacher killed a cop and it started a riot. And to this day, nobody's thrown them out. So there's a big problem. And the same thing happens in the Galil. This is not anything new. When we moved to the country, our first summer, we were up, like I always do, we always go up north, and we were by Kibbutz Lavi, which is right by the Kinneret, looking out over the plains where Suleiman the Great massacred and removed the last crusaders, Karnei Chitim. And looking down there, there were a bunch of us on a tour with somebody from Levi. He said, you see those fields? Most of those are ours, but the Arabs constantly move the fences outward and steal land. And I said, don't they realize, the War of Independence is over? He goes, not for them. And so it's not a new phenomenon, and Bennett's a little hamstrung because can't operate because of the Arabs. Whether he wants to or not, Sheikh Jarrah, otherwise known as Shimon HaTzadik. I was just reading Krause's AP Tribune take back in June, a Jewish neighborhood, Shimon HaTzadik, squatters moved in.
I used to live in Shimon HaTzadik. I used to live there, right there.
So squatters moved in 48, were moved in by Jordan. They haven't paid any rent in Jewish-owned property. The Supreme Court agrees that it's Jewish-owned property. But the take is not, you're squatters, you're not paying rent, we're throwing you out. The take is, settlers are throwing out these poor, unfortunate Arabs.
Keep the peace for now. Keep the peace for now.
That's right. And even the Supreme Court buckled. Our Supreme Court they don't rule by law, they rule by politics. So they said, no, we can't throw them out. And they wanted to charge them 1,500 shekel a year, where 1,500 shekel in a month will get you a one-room rental in Yerushalayim. So that's what's going on. So that's that.
All right, let's go to the next subject then, while we have a few minutes left. We're approaching the year 5782 this coming week. Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. And tell me what 5782 and the Jewish New Year means for us as a people, means for the people of Israel, and how is this year different from all other years?
Yes. Well, it really devolves down to a question that's been going on for a long time: Jewish identity. And that is the essence of Rosh Hashanah. If you look at the Rambam's Hilchos Tshuva, we don't have an identity till God gives us an identity. And that's what this so-called judgment of Rosh Hashanah is. You are a good guy. You are a bad guy. You are a middle-of-the-roader guy, parva guy. Benoni. So, but all year round, we are sort of caught in the rat race of no real identity till is given to us in the din of Rosh Hashanah. And it's a very important thing because we define our own identity. God's really just giving his stamp to what we've declared as what we are. And the Jewish people still haven't declared what they are. So 5782, the people in a rut. The country's in a rut. It's been in a rut forever. Politically wise, it's in a rut. In other words, you could solve the Gaza problem, the Aza in Hebrew problem, very easily. you shoot a missile at us. If you looked at Gush Katif, which we abandoned in 2005, the very northern settlements, Yishuvim, the very northern towns, Alei Sinai, are less than 400 meters away from the so-called fence. Grab it back, but you have to make them lose. And you have to know what you are in order to go to war to make them lose. You shoot at us, you're going to lose permanently.
But we know that Benjamin Netanyahu never did that because he did not want children, meaning teenagers, meaning 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, to be lost in war.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that 19-year-olds would be lost in war. Look, in the 80s, I hate to say it, but these morons were saying, I'm sick and tired of going to reserves and having to chase these Arab teenagers who were throwing rocks at us. So what did they do? They armed them with Kalashnikovs. Then they gave them Gush Katif and they armed them with missiles, and the whole country's under missiles. And you cannot keep shutting down the country. So yes, people are lost in war, but the cost in war, if you really did it viciously, quickly, took back Alei Sinai, they'd get the message. You lost Alei Sinai permanently because you shot a missile. How much do you think they're going to keep it up? They'll keep it up again, you'll lose the other 3 northern settlements. We have wimps for generals, and okay, so let's get back to Rosh Hashanah. So, but you can't go to war and be willing to lose some people, including like we just lost Barel Ben Nitza, the border guard on the Gaza fence. What? We're going to let them come up to the fence and put a gun through the fence so they can hit a border guard? You're just losing people slowly. Get in there, do it viciously, take it back, and they're the enemy. And no war's ever been fought bloodlessly. Okay, so that's Rosh Hashanah, and after the Chagim are a break. They're stop the rat race for 3 weeks up till the Shmini Atzeret Simchas Torah, and really evaluate what you are, who you are, where you're going, what you want to do. That is the essence of Rosh Hashanah. Get an identity, and then leading up to Yom Kippur, which is really our day of being angels. Take the opportunity that once a year, go up to the Holy Mount, if we go, and do it in your synagogue, or do it on the Temple Mount, do it wherever you do it. But Seir Lazazel literally means to hell with it. To hell with the rat race. To hell with my running off to work every day. To hell with all that stuff. I don't need that. I don't even have to eat and drink. I don't even need shoes. I just spend one day out of it all. And that's Yom Kippur. And leading back to Sukkot, the gradual re-entrance into the rat race, into normal society. But it's so important that Jewish philosophy really incorporates all this stuff. Because if you remember, Yom Kippur is the day we got the Torah a second time. Moshe had to fragment the tablets, the luchot. What does that mean? That's your fragmented life, your rat race all year long, fragmented. And that's why the guy who brings the Sar Lazel, the scapegoat, is called Ish Iti, a man of time. Time dies, And all of a sudden, on Yom Kippur, you're forced to realize, I got another part to me. I got the whole luchot, the luchot that aren't broken. I've got a whole neshama. And that's what you're nurturing. And if you look at the Haftorah, Shachris of Yom Kippur, it's talking about loosen the reins. What are those reins of? The reins on your soul. Just, live a life, even while you're in the rat race. It's very, this is Ramantis Weinberg, but this is amazing. I mean, he talks about live, Olam Haba, yes, is sort of after time, but Olam Haba is the life of your soul. And you're living in the world to come now. If you live a memorable life, zichronot, a memorable life of your soul. So therefore he gives an example. Boaz, the great-grandfather of David, King David, gives Ruth 6 barley corns. what, 6 barley corns? He's the richest guy. He's the biggest judge in the country at the time. What's he give? 6 barley corns? That's all he can afford. And the Gemara says no. He's giving him David, the Chizkiyahu, Tzidkiyahu, Hanani Mishal Azariah, Melech HaMashiach. So he's in the actions that you do, a Jew going to work as an accountant, a lawyer, whatever, in the work that he does, he's living Olam Haba, the world of the soul. And that's the Chagim.
That's beautiful. Let me just ask you this, just in closing, because we only have a couple of minutes left, literally. In America, a lot of people, again, are not going to shul for the high holidays. They're either davening by themselves or looking for an outdoor service. And shofars being blown in this community all along the streets. There's different hours at different times in different parts of the community where there will be someone out blowing shofar so everybody can fulfill the mitzvah of hearing the shofar on each day of Rosh Hashanah. In Israel, is it the same situation, or is everybody going to shul, the men and the women, or is it fragmented also? Are they looking for outdoor minyanim, or are they just the women just going to hear shofar outdoors? What is happening there? And we only have a minute. So
yeah, so there are some neighborhood. I just got a WhatsApp yesterday that there'll be some outdoor minyanim bayas, so I assume all over the country. I'll be Yom Kippur, I'll be with the Tzohar Minyan, which is modern Orthodox outreach.
In Beit El?
No, in
Where are you
Kfar
staying?
Saba.
So you're staying away for Yom Tov.
It'll be the 11th out of 12 years. We didn't do it last year. And Tzohar has used to have 12, I don't know how many we'll have now. I was in the country club. It was wild. You're davening, Kol Nidre, and the swimming pool is in the background with all these people. But now we have a huge gym. People claim, I don't know, that we get 1,000 people for shofar blowing and about half that for Kol Nidre and much less during the rest of the day.
Wow.
So yeah, the neighborhood minyanim are back. Hopefully with much, like I said, the surge now is about 1/10 what it was back then, and hopefully there won't be that much need, but we're doing it.
Very good. I can't thank you enough for being on the show. I want to wish you Ketiva v'Chatima Tova, a Shana Tova, a happy, healthy New Year, a safe trip back to Israel for the Chagim. I want to wish all of you a happy, healthy New Year, Shana Tova to everyone and all our viewers. Remember, you can check out our website, www.tvrabbi.com, where you can see shows from the past as well as other shows with Dr. Rabbi Hirsch as our guest. If you want to send him or send me an email, you can email us at info@tvrabbi.com, and I will surely forward to him, and I know he'll get back to you personally. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you for being with us, and hope to see you next time right here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom, everyone.
And I'm talking about Rabbi Doug. Talking about Rabbi Doug. Talking about Rabbi Doug on your TV show. Well, he's the rabbi for me. Anytime you need. You're gonna get married or you're gonna die. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug on the TV tonight.